Right now, a Super El Niño is forming in the Pacific, and it's about to tighten water supply across the exact same American states where a very different kind of boom has been quietly expanding for years. Two forces, one climate, one economic, are converging on the same rivers. And almost nobody planning either one is talking to the other. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how a warming ocean 6,000 miles away is about to collide with the machines running your favorite AI app, and why the people who feel it first won't be the ones using the technology. But first, you need to understand the industry itself, because most people have never actually thought about it. There's a sector in America right now that already uses more electricity than entire countries, expanding faster than almost anything built in modern industrial history, and it runs on water. Not metaphorically, literally billions of gallons of it, every single year, poured into machines to keep them from overheating. Under normal conditions, that's a manageable cost of doing business. Conditions are not about to be normal. Somewhere within 100 miles of you, there is almost certainly a data center. As of this year, there are more than 4,500 of them actively running across the United States, with over 700 more currently under construction spread across 38 states. Together, they already consume close to 4.4% of all the electricity used in the entire country, a share that has been climbing every single year since AI tools went mainstream. You've probably never seen one up close. They're deliberately unremarkable, long, windowless buildings behind chain-link fences, usually tucked into industrial parks or rural land where nobody thinks to look. But inside those walls sit racks of servers running hot enough to damage themselves within minutes if they're not constantly cooled. And the cheapest, most effective way to cool them, historically, has been water. This is the part of the AI boom nobody puts in the advertisement. Every image generated, every chatbot conversation, every AI video rendered pulls a small amount of water out of a system somewhere to keep the machine that made it from melting. Let's get specific, because the numbers here get confusing fast, and the confusion is doing a lot of work to hide the real scale of this. There are two kinds of water use you need to separate. The first is direct water, the water physically poured through cooling towers on-site at the data center. In 2023, U.S. data centers directly consumed roughly 17.4 billion gallons of water. That's the equivalent of the annual water use of about 160,000 American households, gone into cooling machines, not people. That number alone sounds almost manageable. Here's where it stops being manageable. Federal researchers project that direct water consumption is on track to more than double and possibly quadruple by 2028, landing somewhere between 38 and 73 billion gallons a year. And that's before you count the second, much larger category, indirect water. Indirect water is the water used far away at the power plants generating the electricity these data centers run on. Because generating electricity, especially from steam cycle power plants, is itself an enormously water-intensive process. When researchers add that indirect water footprint into the total, the number for 2023 alone jumps to roughly 211 billion gallons. In other words, the water you don't see, consumed at a power plant hundreds of miles away, dwarfs the water you could actually walk up and look at. To put that in perspective using a simpler unit, for every kilowatt hour of electricity a U.S. data center used in 2023, it took with it roughly 1.2 gallons of water somewhere in the system. And by 2030, data centers are projected to consume up to 1,050 terawatt-hours of electricity annually. Run that math forward, and you start to see why water researchers have stopped calling this a rounding error. Now, to be fair to the industry, there is real nuance here that deserves airtime, because plenty of viral claims about this topic are exaggerated. The idea that a single ChatGPT query drinks a bottle of water is a distortion of a real academic study, which actually found that it takes 20 to 50 queries to use about a shot glass worth of water, not a full bottle per prompt. Some companies are also improving fast. Amazon disclosed for the first time this year that it managed to decrease its total water withdrawal in 2025 even while expanding capacity, largely by running its facilities at higher temperatures and reserving water-heavy cooling for only the hottest days. So this isn't a story where every company is equally reckless, and it isn't a story where every statistic flying around online is accurate. But nuance about efficiency doesn't cancel out geography. And geography is where this story turns dangerous. National averages hide local disasters, and that's exactly what's happening here. A handful of specific places already show you what the collision looks like before you even bring El Niño into it. In the Dalles, Oregon, Google's water use at its local data center grew by 316% in a matter of years, while the town's actual population grew by just 12%. The town didn't get bigger. The machines got thirstier. In Bessemer, Alabama, community opposition temporarily halted construction of a data center that was projected to require 2 million gallons of water a day, enough, on its own, to supply roughly 2/3 of the entire city's population. Local residents weren't being paranoid. They were doing the math and realizing that a single facility could outconsume most of their own town combined. And according to researchers at Harvard Science Review, this isn't a random distribution of bad luck. Data center development in the U.S. disproportionately lands in working class, Black, and Latino communities, the places with the least political leverage to say no, and often the least financial cushion to absorb what happens when the water gets tight. Here's the uncomfortable through line. These conflicts are already happening in a normal year, under normal drought conditions. What happens when the drought stops being normal? This is where the two storylines merge. Right now, sea surface temperatures across the equatorial Pacific have surged past the threshold for a strong El Niño, and forecasting agencies are increasingly confident this could become one of the most powerful events on record, potentially rivaling or exceeding the historic 1997 and 2015 events that reshaped global weather for a full year afterward. For most of the world, El Niño means shifting rainfall, floods in some places, drought in others. But for the United States specifically, one of the most consistent and well-documented effects is this. The northern and central states, along with much of the interior West, tend to get pushed into a drier, warmer pattern, while the drought that's already been sitting over the American Southwest for 2 decades gets reinforced rather than broken. And that drought is not new. As of the most recent data available this July, nearly 39% of the entire United States and just over 46% of the lower 48 states are already in some level of drought. Federal climatologists tracking the Colorado River Basin and the Rio Grande have been blunt about what's happening underneath the surface. These watersheds have been losing storage for so many consecutive years that a single wet season, or even several, won't bring them back. It would take a permanently wetter climate pattern to reverse the trend, and a Super El Niño arriving on top of that isn't expected to provide it. If anything, forecasters expect the drought to intensify further across the Mountain West and expand into the Northwest through the second half of this year. So the setup is this. The driest, most water-stressed parts of the country are about to get pushed drier, at the exact same moment that one of the thirstiest industries in American history is expanding directly into those same regions. If this collision were happening by accident, it might be forgivable. It isn't. Mapping recent data center construction against U.S. drought monitor data reveals something that should have been obvious to anyone planning ahead. A significant number of new facilities are being built directly inside drought-hit territory. Texas alone has at least 8 new data centers currently under construction, several sitting in areas already facing severe to extreme drought. Louisiana and Mississippi have similar projects underway. Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, states where large areas are currently experiencing severe or exceptional drought, all have new facilities planned or already breaking ground. Water researchers monitoring this pattern have pointed out something that compounds the risk even further. Drought and extreme heat don't just reduce water supply, they simultaneously increase cooling demand. A data center in a hot, dry region needs more water to stay cool precisely at the moment when there's less water available to give it. It's not 2 separate problems stacking on top of each other. It's a single feedback loop, tightening from both directions at once. Meanwhile, the American Southwest and the Central High Plains have been flagged by policy researchers as the 2 U.S. regions suffering what they call endemic water issues. Not seasonal, not temporary, but structural. Ongoing legal disputes over Colorado River water allocation between states are a direct symptom of exactly this stress. And into that already strained system, more water-hungry infrastructure keeps arriving. If you want to understand what's actually at stake here, you have to go back almost a century to the 1930s. During the first years of the Great Depression, a combination of extended drought and aggressive overfarming turned the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas, along with parts of New Mexico, Kansas, and Colorado, into what became known as the Dust Bowl. Storms of dry soil rose so high and traveled so far that dust from the Great Plains reportedly reached ships in the Atlantic Ocean. Roughly 2.5 million people were forced to migrate out of the region just to survive, one of the largest internal migrations in American history, at a time when the entire U.S. population was only around 100 million people. Today, the United States has 342 million people. The same physical region that produced the Dust Bowl is still, right now, locked in one of the longest droughts in the country's modern history, a drought that predates the current AI boom entirely and stretches back over 2 decades. Nobody is predicting an exact repeat of the 1930s. But climate scientists studying this specific setup have pointed out that the stronger an El Niño event is, the longer it typically takes for weather patterns in this region to return to normal afterward. Often years, not months. Layer thousands of new water-intensive facilities on top of a region already this fragile, and you're not just risking a bad summer. You're risking a structural water crisis that outlasts the El Niño event itself by years. Here's the part of this story that rarely makes it into the coverage. When a shared resource gets squeezed, it is almost never squeezed evenly. Municipalities that host data centers are often offered tax revenue and jobs in exchange for approving them, a genuine economic upside that local governments have real incentive to accept. But the water bill that comes with that deal gets paid by everyone in the watershed, whether or not they work at the facility, whether or not they ever benefit from the tax revenue. In drought years, that tension turns into open conflict fast. Residents in California have already lived through periods where household water use was directly restricted by law, while nearby industrial users continued operating at scale. As more facilities get proposed in exactly this kind of drought-vulnerable territory, that same dynamic, restricted taps for households, continued flow for industry, is very likely to repeat itself, and probably sooner than most residents expect. And there's one more detail that makes this harder to fix than it should be. As of right now, there is no federal mandatory water disclosure requirement for data centers anywhere in the United States. Companies can voluntarily publish what they use, and to their credit, some now do. But there's no law forcing transparency. A handful of states, including Nevada, Arizona, and Virginia, have started building their own pressure and reporting requirements at the state level, precisely because the federal government hasn't. Until that changes nationally, most communities are left finding out how much water a facility actually uses only after it's already built, or worse, only after the well runs low. So here's where all of this actually lands. A Super El Niño is forecast to intensify drought across the exact same southwestern and central U.S. regions already suffering from 2 decades of water stress. At the same time, the data center industry, driven by an AI boom with no sign of slowing, is expanding directly into many of those same drought-stressed states, often without any legal requirement to disclose how much water it's taking. And the communities standing at the center of that overlap are disproportionately the ones with the least power to stop it or even see it coming. None of these 3 facts, on their own, is a catastrophe. A strong El Niño has happened before. Data centers have expanded before. Water stress in the Southwest isn't new. What's new is having all 3 converge in the same years, in the same watersheds, at a scale nobody fully modeled for. The honest answer is that nobody currently knows exactly how this plays out, because this is the first time a Super El Niño has arrived into a country already this deep into the AI infrastructure boom. The drought models exist. The data center growth projections exist. But almost nobody has modeled them together, on the same map, at the same time. Which means the real story of this El Niño might not be the one everyone's watching. The floods, the fires, the record heat. It might be the quiet one, playing out underground, in aquifers nobody's checking, in small towns that won't make the news until the taps already have. If you found this useful, let me know in the comments which state worries you most, and subscribe if you want to see how this actually plays out over the next year.